Started here. I think that will work. Okay. Today we're going to start in a seated pose, so you all are already there. If you just want to go ahead and take your hands to your knees and open them up on top of your knees, and then roll your shoulders back and down, and just take a nice deep cleansing breath. Maybe do a couple of those. Just start to kind of notice maybe what sounds are around you. Maybe you want to close your eyes or soften your gaze. And continue to breathe deeply here. Today we have what's called a grounding practice for us. And that means that we'll be focusing on the way that our bodies connect with the mat beneath us in every pose. So that's kind of the intention that we're setting today, is to just focus on what does that feel like? How does the ground support me? You know, even as we're sitting here, the ground is supporting us as it hits our thighs and our glutes and even our ankles here. And so just go ahead and draw your attention to that. And then go ahead and take another deep breath in. Soft sigh out of your mouth. And then go ahead and notice what your breath is doing in your body. Where is that landing for you? And see if you can just stretch it out a little bit further. Slowing it down. And as you continue to breathe in this pose, I'm going to talk to us a little bit more about our practice for today. As many of you know, in the work that I get to do, I have the privilege of working with a lot of people who are in crisis. And that means that I'm often using the power of connection to help bring folks to a state of calm, so that way their prefrontal cortexes, so the decision-making part of the brain, can come online, so that way they can start problem solving for themselves and figuring out or brainstorming solutions. And that way then eventually they get stable, and eventually they're able to address some of the trauma that they've been through and start to heal from that. But that often means that my own brain is stuck in problem-solving mode. I don't know if anybody else has this thing where your brain just feels like it keeps going and going and going and going like that. And so part of today's practice is grounding, because it brings the energy out of our brains and back down into our bodies. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. It says, when you ground, you tune out the world and take a pause from everything else happening in your life. You tune out so you can tune in to yourself. When you ground yourself, you become present. Self-awareness and focusing on your breath and state of being in that moment help you do this. And this in turn connects us to our true self and helps to shift away from the outer elements that are beyond our control. So when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and take those shoulders up towards our ears. And then as we exhale, go ahead and float those shoulders down. Again, as you inhale, take those shoulders up towards your ears. And then as you exhale, bring those shoulders down. And then if you would like, you can just start to tip from side to side slightly, exploring a little bit of, the flexibility that you have in your sides. Continuing to breathe as you do so. And then noticing, as you're tipping from side to side, how the ground supports you or how your body connects with the mat underneath you. Continuing to breathe. Maybe doing one more of those and then coming back to center. I'm going to take our hands onto the mat in front of us and then pull ourselves up onto all fours, coming into what we call a tabletop position. So here, if you need to, always feel free to roll up your mat. I think I'll do that today, just to help give my wrists a little bit more cushion. If you need to do that for your knees as well, feel free to do that. Just make it accessible for your body here. And then here in tabletop, we're going to think about having our knees directly underneath our hips. We're going to think about having our wrists directly underneath our shoulders. If you need to make a fist here, if that's easier for you, feel free to do that too. And then I would love for you to bring your attention to your belly button and just see if you can draw that in toward your spine. By doing that, you're engaging your core, you're strengthening your back slightly, you're coming into a neutral pose, and then you're taking a nice deep breath. And then again, bringing your attention to where your body is touching the mat. So we have our knees and our hands, and maybe even the tops of your feet or your toes. Taking a nice deep breath here. We're going to start to shift our weight, so that way we take our left foot out to the side. We're stepping back with the right foot. You might need to move that left hand more towards center slightly. And then we're going to turn onto our side for a supported side plank here. Taking a nice deep breath. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and take that right hand, sweep it back down to the mat, turning back toward your knees and your palms for tabletop pose. Again, drawing that belly button in towards your spine. And then, if you would like, you can start to slide this right arm underneath your left arm, sitting back over top of your heels, and stretching that left arm forward for thread the needle. We're going to stay here for several breaths. And again, drawing your attention now to what is touching the mat. Maybe it's part of your head, the back of your arm, your knees and your shins and the tops of your feet. Taking one more deep breath here. Go ahead and start to slide that right arm out in front of you, pressing your palms into the mat. Help pull yourself back up to tabletop pose. Again, engaging your core, really drawing that belly button in towards your spine. And then when you're ready, you're going to take that right foot out to the side, step back with the left foot. So it should be bladed, which means that the outside edge of your foot is what you're pressing into the mat. You're going to shift your weight to that right arm and then reach up with the left. If you'd like to look up toward the palm of that left hand, you can. Again, engaging your core here for this side plank. And then taking that left hand down toward the mat once more. Turning your hips back square to the mat as you bring your knees underneath your hips again. Returning to tabletop. When you're ready, you can go ahead and take that left hand this time underneath the right arm and sit back over top of your heels, stretching forward, relaxing your head down. Getting a nice stretch across your back, but also across the front side of that left shoulder. And we'll stay here for several breaths. Again, thinking about what is connecting with the floor or the mat beneath you right now. How does that lend you support? And when you're ready, you can start to slide that left hand out, pressing both palms into the mat, coming up onto all fours. Taking a nice deep breath as you, again, engage your core, lengthening your spine. So you're taking the top of your head toward one wall and your tailbone toward the opposite wall. Seeing if you can just lengthen that spine in this pose. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and shift your weight onto those hands as you tuck your toes. We're going to come into a full plank here. And if you need to, you can go ahead and keep your knees down, doing a modified plank here. And then if you would like, you can start to shift your hips back. For those of you who are doing full plank, if you'd like to shift into downward facing dog, you can this way. For those of us who are doing modified plank, we're going to shift our hips back and come into child's pose. You get to choose what is right for you today as you listen to what your body needs. And then when you're ready, again, press your palms into the mat, shift yourself forward. We're coming back into our version of plank, whether that's full plank or modified plank. So really feel your core engaged here. And then go ahead and shift back, either into downward facing dog or back into child's pose. Taking a few breaths here. Then pressing your palms back into the mat, go ahead and shift yourself forward once more for our plank pose. Keeping those shoulders down away from your ears. And then shifting your hips back one more time, either for downward facing dog or for child's pose. If you need to here, you can widen your knees as wide as the mat and allow your upper body to sink down in between those knees for a little bit of a deeper stretch on your shoulders. And then again, I'm going to invite you to think about what is touching the mat here. Is it your knees? Is it your hands? Is it your forehead? The practice of grounding is establishing a safe place. Here in this space, you can detach from the negative emotions that have made inner work so challenging, even impossible, because it's been too hard. So here in this pose, we'll go ahead and press our hands back into the mat as we bring ourselves up onto our knees one more time. This time we're going to walk our hands forward back into plank But then we're going to lower ourselves all the way down to the mat. And then we're going to work ourselves up onto our elbows. First for Sphinx pose. So here again, thinking about the way that the ground and that the mat is supporting you. See if you can open up that chest a little bit more, almost like you're drawing your heart forward through your shoulders. Thinking about, again, what parts are connecting with the floor or the mat beneath you. It's so easy, in our brains to start having this running dialogue with ourselves. Sometimes we might be thinking or comparing ourselves to others. Sometimes we might be judging ourselves, or we're, thinking about what we can or can't do. So continuing to bring our attention back to the connections that we're making with the mat helps us to come back into our bodies, changing that energy. When you're ready, you can go ahead and come all the way down to the mat. You're gonna make a nice little pillow for yourself, turning your head to one side. If that's not comfortable for you, you're welcome to come all the way down to the mat. Bring your arms alongside of your body here like this too. And again, just taking some really nice deep breaths. So we talked a little bit about how grounding helps us to kind of detach from some of those negative emotions. So let me read this a little bit further. It says, emotional detachment helps us to observe ourselves and our life with greater clarity and accuracy, and can help us to see where we need to change and maybe where we need to improve. Or maybe just where we need to be. When you're ready, you're going to work your hands underneath your shoulders once more. We're going to push straight up into a modified plank from here. Then we're going to shift our hips back so that way we can come back into our tabletop pose. And then we're going to do a cow and cat here. So we're going to go ahead and let the belly sink down. Let the tailbone come up, let the crown of the head come up. And then when you're ready, you're going to tuck that tailbone, arch the back, and then tuck your chin for cat pose. And returning back into cow, allowing the belly to soften down, allowing that heart to come through those shoulders. And again, returning to cat. When you're ready, really stretching out between those shoulder blades. Returning to tabletop, this time we're going to come back down onto the mat. So we're going to shift our hands forward, lower ourselves back down to the mat. Leaving our hands underneath our shoulders, we're going to push up into just a little baby cobra. Keeping those elbows in close to your body. Go ahead and lower all the way down. Leaving your hands there, we're going to push up into our plank pose once more. And then shift our hips back, returning to child's pose. Again, breathing deeply here. Maybe here you notice how your belly kind of touches the top of your thighs. Maybe you notice how your forearms rest on the mat. And when you're ready, we're going to do that whole sequence again, taking our palms, pressing them into the mat, coming up onto tabletop, allowing the belly to sink down, allowing the tailbone to come up for cow pose. And then tucking that tailbone, arching the back, coming into cat pose. Then returning to cow when you're ready to inhale. And then when you're ready to exhale, again, tucking that tailbone, allowing the arch to come up through your spine, tucking your chin. Returning to tabletop, walking those hands forward, coming back into our modified plank, and then lowering ourselves all the way down to the mat. Leaving our hands there, we're going to push up into cobra. This time, see if you can come up a little further than you did last time. You'll feel a really nice stretch on the front side of your abdomen. Then lowering yourself down. Keeping those hands planted underneath your shoulders, push up into plank. Then shift those hips back. This time coming into downward facing, not downward facing dog, into child pose. Continuing to breathe. It's interesting with our breath, it really only takes 3 to 5 deep breaths for us to shift our state from kind of that hurried, kind of chaotic thinking into more of that calm and grounded state of being. There's such power in that. I'm going to come up onto our hands and knees once more. Again, we're going to drop our bellies, allow the tailbone to come up, crown of the head goes up toward the ceiling. You might find that you have a little bit more flexibility now that you've done this a couple of times. And then arching your back, tucking your tailbone, tucking your chin. When you're ready to inhale, go ahead and come back into cow. And then on your exhale, go ahead and shift into cat. Coming back into tabletop, walking our hands forward into our modified plank, and then lowering ourselves all the way down to the mat. Leaving our palms there, we're going to lift into a full cobra. Again, keeping those elbows close to the body. And then lowering all the way down. This time, taking those arms, making a little pillow for your head. Again, coming into this reclined position here. Supine position, I guess is what it would be called. Focusing on that breath. Maybe taking a few more deep breaths here. So as you are resting here, an exercise that we're going to do today is to go ahead and I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and imagine a movie theater. You are alone in the front row, looking up at the big screen, and it's dark and quiet, but instead of seeing your favorite actor, you see yourself acting on the screen. And you're seeing moments of your life play out before you. As you're watching the scene unfold, instead of feeling the emotions that the performer feels, you're feeling what the audience feels watching a scene like this. Whether that actor is you at age 6, 12, or 27, you're not those people anymore. They are past versions of you that you are now examining or observing in the third person. This is a way that we can start to detach from our emotions. It's just one tool in a toolbox of many tools that we use to try to help ourselves process things and kind of get through things. So when you're ready, you're going to go ahead and start to work yourself up onto your palms of your hands once more, pushing yourself up into that modified plank once more. This time, you're going to take yourself all the way back to child's pose, but just stay here for one moment and then return to tabletop. This time, sliding your right knee between those two front hands, coming into pigeon pose, and then relaxing down over top of that front leg. Again, here noticing how the ground is supporting you, what areas of your body are in contact with the mat. Taking another deep breath. When you're ready, you can work yourself up onto your palms, sliding that right knee back. Again, shifting those hips back into child's pose just for one moment, and then returning back up to tabletop. This time, sliding the left knee forward, and then bending over top of that left knee. Again, pausing here for several deep breaths. Listening to your own breath. Again, tuning out the things around you so that you can tune in to what is inside of you. When you're ready, you can start to work yourself back up onto your palms, sliding that left knee back, getting those knees underneath your hips once more, and then again, stretching back into child's pose, just for one pause, and then coming up onto tabletop once more. This time you're going to crisscross your ankles behind you, and if you can, you're going to walk yourself back and sit down. And if you want to get there some other way, that's totally fine too. So then here, we're going to go ahead and take our chin down to our chest. Relaxing all those tiny little muscles in your neck and in your shoulders. When you're ready, you can bring that head back up. This time you're going to take that chin back down to your chest, but you're going to roll your shoulders down just slightly. Getting a little stretch between your shoulder blades. Also releasing the tension you might feel in any of those little muscles in your mid-back section. And rounding yourself back up. Taking a nice deep breath in. And then as you exhale, chin down to chest once more, rounding the shoulders forward. See if you can come down just a little further. And go ahead and round yourself up once more. All right, we're going to take our legs out straight in front of us, coming into staff pose here. Again, having those shoulders down away from our ears. We're going to do the same thing that we just did with our chin to chest, but this time with our legs extended. And this is called caterpillar. So go ahead and take a nice deep breath in, and then take your chin down to your chest. And go ahead and round your head back up. Get a nice deep breath in. This time, chin down to chest, but roll the shoulders forward slightly. When you're ready, you can go ahead and round yourself back up. Sitting nice and tall, take another deep breath in. This time, tucking your chin, rounding the shoulders down. If you need to fold forward just slightly to round a little bit further, you can. We're just releasing all of those tiny little muscles that play those support roles in your back. So we're just relaxing them in groups all the way down the spine. When you're ready, you can go ahead and round yourself up again. This time, see if you can hinge from your hips, keeping your spine as straight as possible. You're going to work your hands forward as you fold forward. Using your hands for support, you can put them on your shins, or if you need to grab onto your ankles or your legs to pull down further, or even behind your knees, you're welcome to do that. And then a reminder again to bring your attention to the parts of your body that are in contact with the mat. When you're ready, you can go ahead and lift out of that. We're going to take the soles of our feet together. And here you can either bounce your knees up and down for butterfly pose, or if it's more comfortable for you, you can lean forward and use your elbows to press those knees down toward the mat. Continuing to breathe. When you're ready, you can start to round yourself up. You're going to take your hands to the outside edges of your knees, help those knees together, and then you're going to reposition yourself kind of more towards the center of your mat so that you can roll yourself down onto the mat. And then I'm going to invite you to bring your knees to your chest. And here you can either rock side to side across that low back space, kind of giving yourself a mini massage here. Or if it feels better to you to just have some stillness, drawing those knees into your chest, you're welcome to do that too. Again, drawing your attention to the parts of your body that are connected to the mat. It's easy sometimes to go throughout life and we kind of buy into this idea, I'm all alone, or I have no support, or nobody understands me, those sorts of things. So grounding is a way that can just remind us of the support that we do have. The ways that we're held even when we don't realize it. Changing that narrative, looking for the ways that we have connection in our lives. When you're ready, you're going to take those knees and allow them to drop off to one side of your body. And then if you are able, you can stretch out both arms to either side, opening up your chest toward the ceiling. One more deep breath here. And then taking one leg at a time back to the center. Go ahead and wrap those arms around your knees and rock back and forth across that low back one more time. This time, dropping those knees off to the other side of your body. And stretching out your arms, kind of like wings. Relaxing into this reclined spinal twist. Taking some deep breaths here. And then when you're ready, go ahead and take one knee at a time back to center. Wrap those arms around your knees and rock back and forth across that low back. When you're ready, you're going to come back to center. Allow those feet to come down to the mat. And then go ahead and think about all four corners, so to speak, of your feet touching the mat. So if you have kind of this either edge on the front side of your foot and then either edge of your heel, really pressing down into the mat. And then taking your arms down alongside of your body. Go ahead and take your palms down to the mat, extending your fingers out as wide as they'll go from each other. Kind of like jazz hands, but just on the ground. And then when you're ready, you're going to press those feet into the mat. And you're going to start to peel your spine up off of the mat, coming into bridge pose. And again, you're just coming as far as feels comfortable to you. So if that means that you're here, then do that. And if that means that you're way up in the air, feel free to do that too. Check in with your knees, that they're not splitting out to either side, that they are directly over top of your ankles. And then when you're ready, you're going to round down one vertebrae at a time. Your tailbone should be the last thing that comes down to the mat. And you're going to take one knee at a time back into your chest. If you'd like, you can stay here, or you can start to reach for the outside edge of your feet, outside edges of your feet, and then take the bottoms of your feet up toward the ceiling for happy baby pose. Again, just doing what feels comfortable to your body. Checking in with your thought life here. What is the self-talk that's going through your mind? When you're ready, you can release those feet all the way down to the mat once more. Bringing your arms down alongside your body. You're going to press all four corners of those feet into the mat once more as we peel our spine off the mat for bridge pose. And if you want to do this pose at home during the week, you're welcome to do this. And if you want to start to strengthen your core a little bit, if you have weights, or I used to use cans of beans as weights when I was working out at home before I was able to have money to buy weights. You can just put those directly on top of your hips as you do that, just to add a little bit of resistance to this pose. Then when you're ready, go ahead and exhale as you round down to the mat, taking your knees back to your chest, and either staying here or reaching through for the outside edges of your feet. Again, taking those feet up toward the ceiling for happy baby pose. Taking a couple of nice deep breaths. Then releasing those feet back down to the mat. This time you're going to leave your left foot on the mat and take your right foot up toward the ceiling, drawing that leg in towards your chest. When you're ready, you're going to take that right ankle over top of the left knee, opening up to figure four. Again, grounding in through your back, the back side of your shoulders, the back side of your hips. And go ahead and release that all the way down to the mat. This time taking your right foot, making sure that is firmly planted into the mat. The left foot up toward the ceiling as you draw that left leg in toward your body. Taking one more deep breath here. And then crossing that left ankle over top of the right knee, dropping the left knee down away from your body. And again, grounding in through your back, through the back side of the shoulders, the back side of the hips. When you're ready, you can release that all the way down to the mat. This time we're going to take both feet all the way down, extending those legs out. If you'd like to point your toes, you're welcome to do that. We're going to stretch our arms up overhead, taking toes to one wall, fingertips to the other as we inhale deeply. And then as we exhale, we're going to sweep those arms down alongside our body as we relax our feet at the same time. We'll do that one more time. So taking our toes, pointing them towards one wall, taking our arms up overhead, pointing our fingertips in the opposite direction as we inhale deeply. And then exhaling as we sweep those arms down alongside our body, relaxing our feet and our legs. Pausing here for a few deep breaths. I'm going to come back to our first statement that we read earlier today. It says, when you ground, you tune out the world and take a pause from everything else happening in your life. You tune out so you can tune in to yourself. When you ground yourself, you become present to the moment. Self-awareness and focusing on your breath and state of being in that moment help you to do this. And this in turn connects us to our true self and helps to shift away from outer elements beyond our control. By grounding, you are establishing a safe space for yourself. When you've taken a few more deep breaths here, we're going to start to work ourselves into another pose. So you're bringing your feet back to the mat. And then you're going to work your hands underneath your hips. And you're going to drive your elbows into the mat as you start to draw your heart up toward the ceiling. For modified fish pose, if it's helpful to keep your legs all the way extended down, you're welcome to do that too. And then rounding down out of that pose, working those hands out from underneath your hips. If you would like, you can either take your hands behind your knees and rock yourself up, or if you'd like to roll to one side and then work yourself up into a seated position, you can. Here we are going to take our toes up toward the ceiling, leaving our heels on the mat. We're going to think about sitting nice and tall, straightening out that spine. We're going to take our arms parallel to the floor and then start to lean back, keeping that spine as straight as possible, coming into boat pose. If you'd like to explore this pose further, you can start to bring one leg up at a time, or you can bring both legs up at the same time and hold it. Again, exploring what feels right for you today. Continuing to breathe, and then sitting up out of that, giving those abdominals a little bit of a break. Get a nice deep breath. And then as you exhale, start to move yourself back into that boat pose. Again, leaving those heels connected to the mat. Feeling your tailbone connected to the mat. Feeling your core is strong. Then go ahead and lift out of that pose. We are going to turn over onto all fours once more. So coming back into tabletop here for our last sequence here. So here we're going to take our right foot between these two front hands. We're going to shift our weight forward for a low lunge. We're just using our hip flexors in that boat pose, so now we're stretching them out. And then we're going to step that foot back, come into all fours once more, sitting our hips back, again touching our foreheads to the mat if possible. Child's pose. Then as we come up out of child's pose, we're going to come to all fours again. Walking our hands forward, we're going to drop our hips down to the mat, coming into cobra. Then shifting those hips back up, doing a modified plank, coming back into tabletop, and then sitting those hips all the way back down for child's pose once more. Then go ahead and come back up onto all fours. This time stepping the left foot forward. Through those front hands, again, stretching forward, getting a nice stretch on that right hip flexor this time. And stepping that left foot back. Again, sitting our hips back over our heels as we stretch into child's pose. Then pressing our palms into the mat. We're returning to tabletop first, then shifting to that modified plank and allowing those hips to come down as we come into our cobra pose. Then shifting those hips back into modified plank, stopping in tabletop, And then shifting those hips all the way back down into child's pose once more. And then when you're ready, you can either stay in this pose or you can move your back for your final relaxation pose or move to a different pose for you. And we'll just take about 1 minute or so of silence here at the end of our practice.
This is the best part.
Yes, this is the best part. I agree. Again, I'm going to invite you to draw your attention to the ways that the ground or the mat below you is holding you, is supporting you. When you're ready, you can start to bring your awareness back to this present moment. Maybe wiggling your fingers or wiggling your toes. And you're welcome to stay here in this pose, or if you would like, you can roll to one side. Gently push yourself up into a seated position. And let me pray for us to close us out. God, we thank you that you are the ground beneath us. That when sometimes it feels like the world is falling apart, or sometimes we're just stuck in our heads, that you have this practice of grounding for us. That we can realize the ways that you're supporting us even when we don't see it. Lord, would you continue to draw our attention and draw our focus to the truth that you have for us. That you love us, that you support us, that you're our foundation. We love you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Okay.